I don't think that anyone really dreams and hopes to be a salesperson or mortgage lender or realtor when they grow up. I think it just naturally happens. And that's what happened to me is I was just in finance and banking, and one thing led to another, and that led to being a mortgage lender. And so I've continued this journey as a mortgage advisor. I had other positions within banking and mortgage processing, but a full-time mortgage advisor since about January of 2017.
Welcome to Get Real 411, the podcast where real experts give real advice on all things real estate. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Brad.
Join us as we explore real estate successes and pitfalls through the eyes of our esteemed guests.
Now let's get real.
Well, welcome everybody. We are excited today to be joined by mortgage advisor Kayla Kallander. She is with First International Bank and Trust. Kayla, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm so excited for some value add and some collaboration here.
We can't wait to get to know you and learn a lot more about you.
Likewise. I love it.
Yeah. So Kayla, you and I don't really know each other. In fact, we met, just before the show here. So I said, let's not even talk. Let's just learn about you so everybody can be part of the conversation. And like Jamie said, I mean, we just like to talk to people that are out there and just making a difference, not only for themselves, but for others. So your borrowers, the people who are coming in contact with you, you've got some pretty unique things going on with dog rescue and that sort of thing. But I think the best place to start is like, how did you get in the mortgage business? What was your career like before that? Have you always been in, is it North Dakota?
Fargo, North Dakota.
There you go. So have you always been there, or what brought you there? Just kind of start at the beginning.
So I'm from a small town called Walhalla, North Dakota, about a mile south of the Canadian border. And when I say like a mile south, like my dad would farm land and be able to see a Canadian farmer, like, and have conversations basically. But born and raised, youngest of six on a farm. So I actually started my finance career journey, if you will. I was 15 years old in my small town in Walhalla. I can't believe they let me do this, but they were hiring a high school student to be a CSR, a teller. And so that's kind of how I started, and I went to college in Fargo, North Dakota to NDSU. And I kept my job at the bank. I had a job, like I said, when I was 15, continued to work at a location in Fargo and continued that as I went to study business at NDSU. And I don't think that anyone really dreams and hopes to be a salesperson or mortgage lender or realtor when they grow up. I think it just naturally happens. And that's what happened to me is I was just in finance and banking, and one thing led to another, and that led to being a mortgage lender. And so I've continued this journey as a mortgage advisor. I had other positions within banking and mortgage processing, but a full-time mortgage advisor since about January of 2017. So it's been about 7 years that I've been doing this. I am growing and learning every single day. But one of the coolest things about being a lender is the ability to utilize social media to connect with referral partners, different people to collaborate with, like you guys, and to reach an audience by breaking geographical boundaries. So I've really leaned into that. And then, of course, I have 4 rescue pit bulls, which are my babies and keep me pushing and driving every day.
Well, and here's what I think is amazing about your babies. They're so well trained. First of all, the pictures that they pose for them snoozing on the boat, like it is that I snuggle with my dog just like you do. I have so many pictures just like yours where they're our babies. So I absolutely love that. And I love the way that you parlay your love of dogs into really understanding the breed and how much there are so many pit bulls in rescue here in California as well. There, when you go to the shelter, it's almost all pit bulls, which is so difficult. And so I think expanding people's understanding is so important. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of got you started in that?
Yeah.
When I got married, my husband asked me if we should get a dog. And I grew up on a farm, you guys. I'm like, well, where will the dog stay? We don't have a fence. Like, I didn't understand, you guys, as young as like 27. I didn't really even understand much about owning a pet because all of our animals were outside and that's how it was. And so my husband found, a rescue site, and we rescued this beautiful brown pitty named Colby. And my heart just exploded. I'm sure you guys probably have witnessed that, with kids and your animals. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this love could exist. And then I started to see, as I started to follow rescue sites, I'm like, why are there so many pit bulls? And then you start to follow the TikToks, the social medias, the media, everything about it. And my heart just broke. And as we moved forward and decided to get 2 dogs, I was against 2 dogs because I'm like, I don't know if this is a smart idea. Best decision you can ever make, anyone listening, is to get 2 dogs because they have each other. And if you open the door to let one out, you keep it open for 2. It's not that hard. And then that led to 3, and then that led to 4. And it was because we knew we had the capacity and love and that there were dogs in need. And so in the last few years, I'd have more if we had a bigger truck, I would have more. But the stigma against pit bulls because of the way they look in their breed just breaks my heart. And when you look at my dogs, they're the biggest babies, the biggest snugglers. And so that has also led me to be part of a board of directors for Homeward Animal Shelter in Fargo. And I'm their treasurer, and we meet a few times a month. And that has also exposed me to what it's like in a shelter and what it's like at the pound. And so that has, like, when they say do something in your life that makes your blood boil, that makes my blood boil. And so when I see the need, it just allows me to support and help in different ways, because I don't think my king bed can fit 5 dogs, so I'm probably stuck at 4 for a little bit, but I can help in other ways. So
Well, I have a follow-up question to that because I also like big dogs, and I had to put down uh, our Rottweiler, who is part of our
oh,
family, and I've had Rotties for
love it.
my whole adult life. Um, this one was the best of all of them I had, and he was 10 years old, which is about the lifespan for big dogs. But so here's a question because after we kind of have a dogless house currently,
Oh,
and it's so easy to travel.
oh,
Like we don't like it's just there's so much work involved in trying to find a sitter, especially for big dogs.
mm-hmm.
So how do you do that? Do you ever get away?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Okay. I applaud you for asking this because no one really has asked me this, but I travel alone. So you guys might see that I attend
Yeah.
many conferences. That's what I travel for because I trust my husband with our dogs and he's taking care of them. My husband and I have not taken a vacation since February of 2020, right before COVID. We went to Mexico, came back. The next day we drove to Wisconsin and got a dog. So that was it. And then we used to have his parents would watch the dogs, but his father had passed in 2020, and then we ended up going from 2 to 4 dogs within a year. So I would say if we do travel, we have to basically bring somebody in. We have to bring like a friend or family member to come stay with the dogs because it's hard. And also I miss them. So instead we actually bought a lake home and we just drive the hour, and that's kind of our vacation. So that's kind of the trade-off that we've figured could work for us.
And it's
That's
a
a good trade.
beautiful, it's such a, the dock, the view. It's one of the many reasons I look for, other states to potentially get
Yeah.
like a vacation home in, because just to be able to jump on the boat and the view you
Yeah.
guys have, it's been cool to watch the renovation and
Oh,
the before
thank
and
you.
after stuff. It's been
Oh,
really, really cool. So that's amazing. I used to raise Labrador retrievers. And another fun fact, my husband's family owns farmland in Calgary, Canada, and he spent most of his life, and I have spent many
oh,
years visiting the family farm in Calgary.
oh
So
my gosh.
I love the Canadian culture, have
Yeah.
family there, and all about the farmland. It is
Oh,
a
yeah.
life
That's
that
amazing.
is, yeah, I've threatened to move there many times, and my husband has explained to
Oh,
me that I have not experienced the winter. And so until I do that,
oh,
he's not willing.
yeah. It will hurt your face, and you will soon realize, it gets hot in California. It gets really hot. It's like just the opposite. You can't do anything, and if you walk outside, your face will hurt. So, and then you can't wear your cute shoes. You got to wear boots. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your career. So, you started as a teller.
Yeah.
I guess it's yeah. And I'm guessing that the institution or the bank you were working for gave you an opportunity to help somebody with a mortgage loan. Is that how it started?
Yeah, I think what it happens is natural progression in a bank. You go from teller, then you're like head teller, and then you're personal banker, and then you're commercial banker. And then I had roles such as HSA advisor. I was a receptionist. I was in cash management, all these things. And finally, I'm like, I want to do loans. And so they kind of plopped me right in. Like I didn't even know what DTI meant, and I'm a mortgage lender. So they're like, you can talk to people, you're good, you'll figure it out. Well, you guys, that scared the life out of me to go talk to people about things I didn't know. So I actually left the business for 2 months and became a headhunter, which I soon quickly realized that is not for me. That is cutthroat. So I went and processed at a bank that was recruiting me. So I was at this bank 11 years, had a little stint, and then went to a new company where I could process and originate. It was a hybrid role. So I got to learn as I'm doing and not have to be fully out there, 100% commission, just, talking about things I didn't know. And then that turned into fully, being a processor, originator, and originating full time, being a mortgage advisor in 2017.
So it's
That's a
kind of
great way to
interesting.
learn.
Brad, you and I have been having so many conversations surrounding the lack of structured training and education in our industry. It's definitely been something that we've noticed. I mean, going back, as far as Brad and I go in the industry, even today, all these years later, there really isn't a lot of it out there. It is truly throw you to the wolves and figure it out kind of a situation. And one of our kind of core values here at our company is to provide a lot of training, because we do see loan officers. We've seen loan officers come in and they've managed to close some loans, but they don't have the A to Z understanding of the components of it. And then if a unique scenario is presented, they feel really lost. And so we've created a world where we've got a concierge and a bunch of things that help support people. And in general, I know you do this as well. I spend a lot of time with other colleagues in the industry who are newer, just trying to give them a hand, give them a leg up, give them a little bit of help, because there just isn't a lot of resource out there for folks.
Yeah.
Well, and how can you, in good faith, sleep at night and know you're providing your client the best option if you don't know what home ready and home possible are, and you're just locking, traditional, like if you don't know, and that's not necessarily against the lender, it's they don't have the training, and it's baptism by fire, and I see it constantly. You're exactly right, Jamie.
And it's very difficult to break into the business too, because we know, if you've been in the business for a long time and you've done it the right way and you've built up a good referral business, and you have people coming back to you and that sort of thing, you can make it through kind of the rough times. Like, it's either feast or famine in our business, right? And most of the originators, and it just goes for really for all sales, they just don't do the work necessary to make it through those rough times. And so when it gets difficult, they just get out of the business. But it's so difficult to learn, like you said, DTI, right? So we know what that means. It doesn't mean everybody that's listening to this knows what it means. And certainly not all borrowers do, but it's debt to income. And we're talking about debt to income ratios. There's a whole nomenclature. It's almost an entirely new language that you have to learn on top of learning the mechanics of originating a loan and all the different loan programs and staying up to date with the changes and all of that. And so you're right, there's not very many resources. And we do talk to a lot of new loan officers that, just don't have the ability to learn what they need to get started. So does your bank have a program to take brand new people and teach them the business? Is that one of the things they do?
No, they don't. It's baptism by fire. And I think a lot of industries, a lot of industries experience that. And I think a lot of people think, well, the best way to learn is just by doing. But truly, I think the best originators are the ones that start as closers, processors, they're juniors. And so for the people that are thrown in right away, you're asking for these things from a client, but you don't know why. You always ask for it, but you don't know why. So when you get conditions from an underwriter of what to go get from a client, you should be able to kind of, if you want to, refute those a little bit and say, hey, I don't think we need that. Like, there's no concept of that because you just are told. So I think a lot of banks, a lot of companies, mortgage companies, they don't have the training. They believe in the baptism by fire mentality. And
you're completely
I don't know
right.
why, but that's just the case.
Yeah. And I think, in the last couple of years, particularly, it's been very unique, because my ordinary advice to a newer loan officer would be to do exactly what you did. And by the way, what I also did, which is take an ops role, even if it's part-time, and start learning the mechanics of the loan, because you'll get exposed to so many different loans. Well, let's face it, the last couple of years with companies closing and layoffs, even experienced ops folks have had a hard time finding roles. So those newer loan officers that are coming in to try to learn, there aren't roles for them. So the next kind of evolution has been find a mentor, find a loan officer who's not only knowledgeable, but willing to take you under their wing, and show you what to do, and do that for, I say, give it a year. I say, have some reserves on hand. There's going to be a ramp up period. You have to be able to consistently do the work. So I think that it's extraordinary as an industry, and it's no particular company, it's all industries, that we allow folks to get a license and handle the largest transaction that most people will ever do in their lives without necessarily having given them a lot of the key tools that they're going to need to do that well.
And a lot of companies have they might have their own overlays or products or systems and technology, and then things are constantly changing, and so to keep up with that, and then we experience the ebbs and the flows and the ups and the downs. And, my husband will say, what does your day look like? And I'll say, I really don't know. I don't know how many people are going to reach out, and you just never know. But it always seems like it's hard to, balance it all. And I love what you say, Jamie, find a mentor, because there's so many coaches out there too, or programs that you can hop on monthly and just be part of a community where you can get input and feedback of what you're going through.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Kayla, what does your day look like? I think you can just pretty much answer that. I don't know. I'll let you know tonight.
Right.
Because we really don't know, right? There's a lot of changes. Jamie was digging in on some Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae issues today. She didn't start the day thinking that would happen. So, so you're also an author. Tell us about that.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, because I have the book right here.
Awesome. What is the name of the book? Say it out loud.
Brad?
Say that again.
Say the name of the book.
Oh, it is called Rethink Everything You Know About Being a Next Gen Loan Officer. So, truth be told, I had a podcast right before you, and I brought this up, so that's why it was so easily accessible. But this book, you guys, the podcast I had before you guys was for student athletes, and we talked about this book because this is not just for mortgage lenders. It could be for realtors. It could be for anyone in sales. It talks about technology. It talks about sales. It talks about relationships. And so I was lucky enough to be asked by Kyle Draper to write a chapter. There were 30 of us that each wrote little short story chapters about what we are passionate about. And I wrote about social media and brand strategy, basically, in our industry. So I was blessed with the opportunity to do that. And that book came out in March.
And by the way, Brad, in case you can't tell, the two main authors, Brian View, one of our good friends, Kyle Draper, somebody that I have really been getting to know. And I just absolutely love what he's doing to educate loan officers on how to leverage AI. So two other great people that are some of my favorites in our industry. So excellent two folks to partner up with on that book, and kudos to you for being a part of it. Several of my other friends in the industry are also in that book, and it's just a great roster of folks.
It is. And we get to, I've met so many of them, at conferences, and I've probably met at least 20 of the authors. And so that's been really cool, because it's created this, again, collaboration. How can we help each other? How could we help the consumer together? And that's been such a joy, there's more to this than just the book.
There is. And I think we all start to get to a point in our careers where we ask ourselves what's next and what else.
Yeah.
And I know for me, and I think Brad will agree here, coming up earlier on in the industry, there was no sense of community. And I think it's very interesting the way that we all collectively have started to create our own. So whether it is through coaching groups, or whether it is through Facebook groups, or even whether it is through meeting folks on social media, watching what they're doing and really resonating with it, and then collaborating on things like education or books, it's amazing. And so as we sort of start to talk about the theme of how can we share our best practices and our ideas on how to help consumers, I wonder, in your years of serving people, is there any one particular story or experience that kind of gave you that this is why I do what I do feeling?
I have so many, but one of the things that I always think about, and you guys might agree or have experienced this, is, and I'm going to circle back to it to tell you why, but in this book, I talk about the 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon effect. And that's you never know how one opportunity will lead to the next. And I talk about why I was writing that chapter, is how I connected with Kyle and how I connected because he and I spoke at SocialCon. Went to SocialCon because of this and that, and you get the point. But the reason that I bring that up is that I think about all of these people that I've impacted and how cool that is to be part of it. But when I look at the one that I just do the 6 degrees and then like how many opportunities and things came from it, I had a couple that was referred to me back in 2015. They were referred to me by a realtor that I just connected with on Facebook. I liked his post and he sent me these clients and they came in just beautiful couple. I was like, wow, this couple's just so beautiful. And so they were so kind, but they were so scared. You could tell. And we sat down and I could tell they were nervous. I got them approved on the spot and they were just excited. And long story short, we got them into a home. They got a beautiful new home and they closed on their house. And they said, I cannot believe how easy this was. Our last experience, we didn't know our final numbers till like the day of, and it was pushed back. And they compared it to their previous experience. They said, I didn't know it could be this easy, Kayla. These two people are now my husband and my best friends. You probably see them in all my social media posts because we're with them all the time. But also they have been so good for my husband and I as like having people that you can relate to and in other, marriages. And we actually, our second rescue, Oxley, we got from them.
Oh,
I
neat.
know. So they tried to rescue, they had Pomeranians, so it didn't really work out.
Yeah.
So we got our dog from them. And now like we are I've helped them with other purchases and things in life. And they are now our best friends. And when I think about that and think about like how that has, again, this the 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon. Had I not liked that Facebook post, had I not met these clients, had I not given them a good experience, my personal whole heart, my life would be different today. And so I think about that story a lot because I'm just so blessed to have met them. And it's all because of connecting with a realtor. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
and them having a good experience.
And
So,
it's part of the ingraining yourself in your community,
yeah.
which is largely what Brad and I started to do early on. We live in a kind of a very unique, smaller community in Southern California. It's very, very different than a lot of the other areas here. And so, you become the person that people trust because you show by example that you're credible and you have integrity and you're going to guide people through the process. And the next thing you know, real estate agents know who you are. I know for me, I will call listing agents when my buyers make offers and put in a good word. And a lot of the times they recognize the name in the company and they associate us with, oh, they can get this done. And I think that's very, very important. But it started with you not being afraid to connect with people and share what you do for a living. And I think that's something that a lot of newer loan originators are actually quite scared to do.
Well, I think a lot of people think it's salesy and pushy, but like you are robbing the people that could use your amazing services by not posting, by not getting out there. You are robbing them of that. They need you. And so when you flip the script like that, and if I don't put content out there, if I don't go get out there, I'm robbing that future client of a really great experience. And so when I think of it like that, and people like lenders or realtors, it's a little bit easier to sell yourself.
Yeah, agreed. Look, the other side of this is that they came to you as scared home buyers, right? And
Yeah.
you completely changed their life, let alone all the personal things that took place after that, but you got them into a home. And I think that especially young people don't really know. It's so confusing. They're online, they're in their social feeds, and there's so many different messages about different types of loans or how to buy a house or real estate agents and that sort of thing. And until they find somebody that they really feel comfortable with and they trust, they don't really know what it will take. And so that's a big takeaway there, is that you push, what you said about, hey, you can't keep yourself a secret. You get out there, put yourself
Yeah,
out there in socials. Why are you hiding from people? They need you, especially if you're really good at what you do.
exactly.
So, you said at the very beginning, knowing loan products, and not just sticking somebody into the product, but knowing all the products that are out there. So I'm just curious, like what types of loans you're doing for, say, first-time home buyers that are very unique, or something that's unique that maybe most aren't offering because you've got the experience to give that to them. Can you think of some people recently that you've helped?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have really great programs through North Dakota Housing Finance Agency, for example. It requires $500 out of pocket. So when I meet with clients, many times they might be getting part of their earnest money back, and they're getting money back on their closing disclosure, their final numbers at closing. And they're like, how did you do that?
How great is that?
Yeah, I'm like, you can get into a house by getting money back. Now, they actually had $500 into it with, like, a home inspection, earnest money, things like that. But to be able to give someone the opportunity to start creating wealth and to start creating that equity, the appreciation, and all the things that home ownership has with $500, like, we need to be talking about that more, because there's underserved areas and people in
Yes.
our communities, and they think you've got to have that 20% down. And I remember thinking, oh, people don't believe that anymore. This is like a year ago. I'm like, people don't believe you need 20% down. And I had a repeat buyer say to me, I need about 20%, right? I was like, no, 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 no. But that's, again, we need to continue to educate our people, and we need to stop pushing links. Stop pushing links. Start like scheduling initial consults, Zooms, phone
Hmm.
calls, because the app doesn't ask, what are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? What are your fears? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? The app doesn't ask that. I mean, my app doesn't ask that. I don't know about anybody else's, but that's how we can then give them the best curated options, because prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. And I say it all the time. In order for me to give you the best diagnosis, the best prescription, I've got to have the time to analyze and meet with you. And so I think that first-time home buyers, even repeat buyers, if you take the time to sit down and talk and let the lender, who's the expert, curate these options. Now, that lender has to know what they're doing, but there's some really incredible options out there for even repeat buyers.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think that's how you build a sustainable long-term business that pays you dividends for
Yeah.
years to come. You become the expert. Brad and I have called that the discovery chat for
Yes.
decades, and it's something that both of us still do to this day, even if it's a 5-minute chat.
Yep.
It is so important. If you really want to be more than a commodity, if you want to be a true expert and a true advisor to your clients and earn their trust, then you have to understand the whole picture, not just the financial side of things. And understanding their goals helps you to understand what the best options are for them. I mean, think about it. When we refinance people, how many other folks are asking things like what are your long-term plans with the home, to determine if a recoup period is
Mhm.
something that makes sense for them. And we talk about, down to the analysis of whether they should buy a rate down, depending on how
Mhm.
long they plan to stay there. These
Right.
are the things that differentiate us. And so when we have newer loan officers that are getting shopped, which is going to start happening even more again soon as we head into a different rate environment, you know at the end of the day, the best way to hedge against somebody becoming a rate shopper is to offer them so much value that when rates and pricing are very close, it's not even a conversation, because they
Right.
know that you're the one they can trust to get them through to the right option for them.
You're spot on. And I think if you're not having those conversations, I don't know about the two of you, but the clients that don't make time to have the chat, I don't feel like they have as great of an experience. They're chasing a rate, which
Yep.
that's all they're educated to do. But they're like, well, I filled out the app, just get me approved. What's the rate? You don't connect, and you don't get to, like I said, curate those really like defined options and solutions for them. They're just kind of, you're shooting from the hip. And I really think that those clients are, gypping themselves out of a really good experience if they're not taking the time to slow down.
Yeah, I look, you're right. And especially when you're talking about really learning whether somebody could qualify for a unique bond program, like what you
Right.
mentioned, so there are these types of bond programs that
Mhm.
sometimes it's a city program, sometimes it's a county program, sometimes it's a state, sometimes they're federal, and really staying a student of what you do makes it so that you can be of better service to your clients. So
Mhm.
I'd like to find out, and because that's probably a unique thing, that North Dakota bond program. How does it work? Tell the audience how it works.
Yeah, so there's so many options. Obviously, it pairs with the program that you're going to be put in. So VA, USDA, FHA, conventional. So with North Dakota Housing Finance Agency, Brad, I'm glad you said this. There's certain income limits. So if you make over a certain amount, we need to make sure that if we're quoting you that rate, that we've looked at all of your income. Even the spouse that's not on your loan, we need to calculate their income into that. So we have to look at your income to make sure that you meet certain options. And there's a few different programs. If you're, you have a disabled relative living with you, if you're a single parent, a disabled veteran, we've got some for that. We've got some for first-time home buyers making under a certain threshold. And it's based on how many dependents you might have. So there's a lot of factors. And then we even have the option available for repeat buyers. But how most of it works, the most popular one is people get 3% of the loan amount as a credit. That is forgivable. It's prorated over 8 years. So if they're in the home for 4 years, then half of it is forgiven. So it's really cool that if someone's in their property for that long, it could be forgiven. A lot of times clients' homes appreciate, so by the time they sell, they don't notice that when it comes off their proceeds. But essentially, we look at your income, you can get 3% of your loan amount covered for down payment or closing costs, and you can be a first-time or repeat buyer, which is really cool in the state of North Dakota. And as long as you have $500 out of pocket, that's all you need. Now there's different programs, different interest rates for each of those different, repeat, first time. And a lot of the other programs just have a little bit of a reduced rate if you don't take the assistance. So it's really cool, but it takes us diving into that scenario to make sure you qualify.
And there are people out there that don't learn and master the program, and then they might be advertising or marketing it. And unless you do the digging, unless you have those personal conversations to understand the story, you may not know that there are things that these folks would be eligible for. And so that is just another reason why it's so important to understand the story and really get to know our clients.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you're a home buyer, this is the lesson here, right? If you're a home buyer and you're getting ready to talk to a loan originator, ask them if they know about local bond programs and other things to help you with down payment assistance. If they don't, maybe they're not really a student of what they're doing, and you should look for somebody else. So that's pretty awesome, though, that the intricacies. Even if somebody was disabled, you get a little bit better benefit. Like, people don't know that for VA loans as well. If you've got a disability and you're a veteran, you get better financing. You can get closing costs waived. There's all sorts of other benefits there. So being with somebody who's super knowledgeable is really important. Obviously, Kayla, you're one of those people.
I try to keep up. There's a lot to know, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you don't know, if you're a lender listening to this, if you don't know, we have so many tools that are available to us, and mentors and people that, yes, things change, but we have so many ways. I mean, I don't know if you guys use Guideline Guru, for example, things like that. Like, we have ways to find the answer. And if it's an answer that's gray, then we're going to work with underwriting to find a way so that when you're ready to make an offer, we know that you're good to go. We're not second guessing. We're not just, hoping that you're approved for that. So it's important to really know your guidelines too.
All right, I'm going to jump ahead to something totally different out of the blue. I'm just curious your take on what you think the effect of AI is going to have on mortgages.
I thought you were going to ask me about Trump versus Harris.
Or the NAR settlement, the two things.
Because I have opinions on that. No. Okay, AI. I think that it scares me a little bit, but I don't think that it's going to replace us, because it's not able to have those genuine conversations. But I think it was Guild Mortgage just came out with new technology with AI. I think that there's a place. I mean, we use an underwriting system, Guideline Guru, that's AI. I had a client that ChatGPT'd VA funding fee and VA assumption, and was looking at that and was using it that way. But I think I've talked to some realtors that there's some AI that's having like chat conversations, and then taking their voice and having conversations and scheduling listing appointments on their calendar. So that makes me nervous, but I think that we're going to see some big changes. I just don't know what that means for our future. But I think that we're still going to absolutely need to have these personal conversations, because I think trusting AI to do your loan, I don't know, I wouldn't trust it, but I think that there's some robust technology that's going to come in to help us lenders for sure.
I
What
think
do
if
you
we use it as a, yeah, I think if we use it as a tool, I've always said nothing replaces the personal experience, but technology can help make us more efficient, which allows us to serve more people. So if I have AI and technology running in tandem with me, then I am following up with more people. I am checking in with more people. I'm reaching more people. And at the end of the day, our goal is to help as many people as we possibly can. That's where I think AI really can be leveraged well. And so today, as an example, I mean, you know, you and I both do a lot of social media stuff. We do a lot of frequently asked questions. We try to educate the community. I help Chat GPT helps me. It doesn't write things for me, but it sort of crafts the framework for what I'm going to do. And so absolutely, that's a huge tool that I use. But to your point, it's not going to ask my customer their life goals or their questions about who lives with them or what they might qualify for. It's a tool, in my opinion. And I think that over time, things are going to evolve. I don't think there's any way that we can avoid evolution. But as long as we continue to provide value that only a human being can provide, there's always going to be a place for us. We have to evolve with technology, in my opinion.
And I think there's a lot of companies that are not embracing technology like they should. And that is keeping them doing manual work. It's keeping them from sending manual emails. If we can have technology, like you said, to work in tandem, that allows us to be able to dive into what we do best, and that's at connecting with people.
Yeah. Brad, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I've got pretty strong opinions on this, Jamie. I think you're right about today. I think today AI could be used as a tool. I think that it continue to be enhanced as a tool. And this goes beyond mortgage, of course, but just thinking very specifically about the mortgage business, origination of loans, I think it evolves very quickly and exponentially. The things that you're talking about, really investigating somebody's qualifications, the connection to those qualifications, I think gets enhanced. So you don't even need to learn that a lot of that directly from the borrower. You can find out about disabilities and other things through connected applications and such. But I think beyond that, I don't think it'll become a difficult thing for AI to emulate the interview process in a very robust and thorough manner. So, you know, I kind of compare this. It's kind of akin to sitting down and doing the interview with your CPA at the end of the year to do your taxes. And they say, do you have this paper? Do you have that paper? Did any of these events happen with you and so forth? And you're kind of at the mercy of them asking you all the right questions and you knowing the answers to those. And how good they are and how thorough, or maybe whatever system they're using that's triggering them to ask those questions. Well, if you knew you had a perfect system that was taking into account all the opportunities that exist out there and could analyze your situation and take advantage of all of those in a more perfect manner, wouldn't you do that? And I think eventually it gets to that. So, you know, TurboTax may be one of those tools that in some circumstances maybe is better than sitting with your CPA. And I think that there'll be, in the not too distant future, a similar comparison between sitting down with Kayla and doing your interview versus, you know, doing that with some AI that may interface just like a human being, and you may not notice the difference. But being able to be a lot more thorough, know every bond program that's out there, whether it's local, state, federal, scour the market, you know, find the right student loan or grant, you know, and those types of things. I think that that's where it really eventually gets to. And I don't think it's that far off. I think we're, you know, 3 to 5 years at the most away from that.
Well, aren't there, we don't use this, but from what I understand, people that use ADP for their payroll, there's a lot of systems that can plug into that for us to verify their employment. I don't use that, but I've heard of that. And I'm like, that's awesome. What if there could be technology to plug into TurboTax, or, you know what I mean? Like there's, you know, some different options out there, but I agree with you. I think we're probably not that far off. Look how far we've come, you know? So I agree.
Well, awesome, Kayla. Well, it's been great getting to know you. And I know Jamie likes to conclude with a question to really make you think. So we're going to ask you that question. And again, super nice getting to know you today.
Pleasure. A pleasure.
Okay, Kayla. So this is a reflection question. If you had the opportunity, knowing everything you know today, to go back to, let's say, 20-year-old Kayla, probably a teller, I'm guessing right about then. What advice, life, business, all of it, what would you tell her?
I think that one of the biggest things that I would emphasize is relationships, connections, and networking. I don't think we realize, I think when we're that young, we don't know the power of the relationships that we have. And you just never know who could be your boss or your colleague or your best friend or someone that you work for, whatever it may be. And I would say harness relationships and network as much as possible. Go have coffee, go meet people. Don't be afraid to ask people questions, because the more questions you ask, the more curious you are, the more feedback, the more answers you have to get to know people and really understand people. So that would be probably one of the biggest pieces of advice, because when I look back when I was 20, you had your circle of friends and that was really it. But as I've grown and in my career and as I've grown as a person, I've realized that I don't just love like what I do or the value I bring. It's really getting to pour into other people and collaborate. And I don't know about you guys, you're probably just like this, but like it fills my soul, my heart, getting to meet people. And you just never know, again, the whole 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon thing, you never know how one person can change your life. And I think about my friends, Tammy and AJ are their name, the couple that I helped. And they are cool with me always saying their names on podcasts because I talk about them all the time. But had I not done that, I would never have been where I'm at today with them. I wouldn't have my dog Ox, like all of these things. So relationships, connections, it's never too soon to pour into people and start like creating your brand and having like an identity at that young of an age.
I love that. That's great advice. That's
Well, that was
great.
amazing. I couldn't agree with you more. Connections are everything. Relationships are everything. Listen, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with us today. It's been great catching up with you and sharing your story with our listeners. And so let's do it again very soon.
I'm down anytime. Hit me up.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Get Real 411 is hosted by Brad Rice and Jamie Cavanaugh, produced by Stuart Gelin, and recorded live from the AmeriFund Home Loan Studio in Simi Valley, California. You can learn more about the show at getreal411.com and watch full episodes on YouTube. If you're interested in being a guest on Get Real 411, email booking@getreal411.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.